It's a hell of a lot cheaper to bury a veteran than to take care of one of us for the rest of our lives. And that's why Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and Secretary of Veterans Affairs, Doug Collins, are doing everything that they can to sabotage our healthcare and benefits. Now, I know that MAGA is going to come in here and say that, oh, the VA is getting better than ever. Yeah, it has been improving. For over a decade, it's been on its way up. But the system is being sabotaged. And all the while, Secretary of Veterans Affairs Doug Collins is trying to gaslight veterans and our providers into believing that we're not seeing what we're seeing or we're not hearing what we're hearing. I just published a story today from 21 whistleblower doctors, all of them doctors, from all across the United States, who are talking about how they are leaving the Department of Veterans Affairs. They are no longer going to serve veterans because Secretary Doug Collins is making it impossible for them to do their jobs. Now, I know MAGAland really likes this return to office thing, the RTO order, because over in MAGAland, they're like, well, they're using taxpayer dollars to pay these people, and I want to make sure that they're in their office. One of the best things about the Department of Veterans Affairs is that it has been a leading provider of telehealth. It saves everyone time and money when a veteran doesn't have to drive an hour or 2 hours to go see a mental health provider. It saves a doctor time when they don't have to travel and sit in traffic, when instead they can be treating patients. Remote work makes sense. But Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and Secretary Doug Collins, they know this, but they understand that MAGA is stupid, and they don't think about the clinical repercussions of forcing doctors to suddenly go back to work after they had been working for years without needing to be in a physical office. In the story that I just published today, I write about doctors who are telling me that they live 4 time zones away from the hospital that they are a provider in. Other doctors who live hours away from the hospital in the same state. And how because of these return to office orders, they either need to uproot their entire families and move across the country or move across the state in order to keep treating veterans. And I know from talking to these people, and I know from nearly 2 decades of getting care at the VA, that these doctors genuinely care for their patients. But at a certain point, they can't be asked to sacrifice absolutely everything in their lives for a job that doesn't pay them as much as they would get in the private sector. And when their working conditions violate the Hippocratic Oath, when they are forced arbitrarily to get into a room full of open cubicles to do therapy for veterans with PTSD, veterans who suffer from things like MST, where veterans are talking about their deepest, darkest regrets and fears in an open room, that violates their oath. And the suggestion that the VA is giving to these doctors is that they should buy noise machines for their cubicles. Meanwhile, Secretary of Veterans Affairs Doug Collins is spending all of his time pumping out propaganda instead of actually running the department and helping veterans. He's going on conspiracy theory podcasts where he's postulating about, oh, well, we spend all this money trying to save veterans from self-harm. You know, the 22 a day statistic that he's inaccurately throwing out. And he says, we've spent all this money, but the suicide rates haven't gone down, so we need to stop spending that money. Not only is this inaccurate, and this man has some of the best researchers, suicidologists, at his disposal, but the logic that he's using is just impossibly stupid. I am a survivor of a suicide attempt. I have been getting care at the VA for nearly 2 decades. I've gone through periods where I was so messed up that I was unemployable, and the VA not only kept me alive, but helped me learn to thrive. It's the VA's suicide prevention programs that are operating today that are keeping countless veterans alive. And Secretary of Doug Collins is implying that those need to be cut because they're not saving every veteran. So he's trying to justify cutting suicide prevention programs for veterans while he's going to be kicking veterans out of the healthcare system, ending programs for unhoused veterans, And in this DEI purge is ending programs for minority veterans that are specific to their needs. Secretary Doug Collins is going to oversee the largest predictable spike in veteran suicides that this nation has ever seen. But I'm just one person. I'm just one patient at the VA. Check out the story that I published on Substack today, which shares 21 separate VA doctors who've reached out to tell their stories, to ask for help, and to let Americans know what is happening as Secretary Doug Collins comes out and tries to gaslight us into believing his lies about the VA being bad, but also better if they just start cutting services. So do me a favor, go to onoffense.substack.com, look for this story, and share it with everyone that you know who cares about veterans. It doesn't matter if they're MAGA, they need to read this. We need to break through and help Donald Trump's base understand that they are literally going to cause the end of the lives of many, many veterans. This doesn't need to happen. And no billionaire's tax dollars getting saved is worth the life of a single veteran.